All right, everybody, welcome to episode 58 of the Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm Josh at Real Fantasy TL, and I'm with my main man, Bill at Super Dupaflex. Bill, how you doing, brother?
Doing good. It's down to the nitty gritty in the playoffs, so all the games matter now. It's kind of exciting. Just hoping for a good finish to the year.
Yeah, man, I'm happy. The league that I predict I'll do the best in. I'm glad I had the bye last week because I would have only beat one of the four teams that played last week. So it was a good week to have a bye and hopefully trying to make a couple moves. The league doesn't have a deadline, so I'm trying to strengthen the roster a little bit, but we'll see what happens. I was 11-2 in that league, so the team is pretty good on its own, but a little strengthening here and there never hurts anything.
That's right.
But all right, Bill, we talked last week and we usually do the news, we do the game by game breakdown, but you know what? We're going to condense it. We're in the playoffs now. There are, less and less players that truly matter because at this point you got four teams left, so there's only four teams worth of players to talk about. And normally, a lot of those teams have a lot of the same players, so we want to highlight those guys and maybe talk about some guys that you don't want to highlight so much. So we're going to do a little bit of the good, the bad, and the ugly from week 14. So I'm going to start off first with my good. Derrick Henry, 26 rushes, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns. And, I mean, that just gets better for him. There's a little Detroit mixed in there, which is a nice team to rush up against. And, he's gonna end the season pretty well. What about you, Bill? What was your good from this week?
My good was Travis Kelce. I mean, he is just murderous right now. He is. I think he had 8 catches for 136 yards and a touchdown for 2 weeks in a row, like the exact same stat line.
Yeah.
10 and 11 targets the last 2 weeks. His last 6 weeks, he's had 5 weeks with double-digit targets. I mean, leading the league in receptions or in yardage now of all positions. So, or receiving yardage, I mean. And, I mean, he's a league winner, right? Like, I mean, there's no way around it. You're getting your the wide receiver one, essentially, as a tight end, which is just crazy.
Yeah, it's insane what he's doing, and I'm pulling for him. I hope he ends the season with the yardage record, and not even the yardage record, but just being the leading the league in yardage, because that would just be crazy for a tight end. We talk about the wasteland all the time, but Travis Kelce is the one shining example of a tight end in the NFL right now. So we're gonna go to the bad now. The bad. I got Josh Jacobs, 16 rushes, 74 yards, no touchdowns. And I'm putting him in the bad for a couple of reasons. First one is that tweet he put out saying that he wasn't playing. Schefter and everybody was reporting on it. It was like, oh man, he's not going to play. And then it was like, ha, fooled you. Like, it was like, all right, like, whatever, dude. But I mean, the last 3 weeks, he has not gone over 55 yards in a game. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, I mentioned 16 for 74, but that's including his receptions. So like he's not rushing for a ton of yards. The last 3 weeks his receptions have been 1, 3, and 3. So it's not like he's, catching 5 or 6 or 7 balls a week. Kind of has been a non-factor for a guy that we thought was going to be, a possible league winner hitting the stretch. Who's your bad, Bill?
My bad. I took this a different route. So bad for me was just bad news for Deebo Samuel getting hurt again. It just seems like he can't get on the field for more than a game or two during this season. And, it's too bad because every time he plays and gets, he's getting targeted, he's getting yards, he's being used in a bunch of different ways. And, now we're going to have to wait till next year before we really see anything from him. So, I think this is going to be a year to maybe acquire him and put him on some of your teams for cheaper. I was listening to Trade Addicts. They were kind of talking about like what his value is now. And, it's probably in the second round now for people that want to try to pick him up. So if that's the case, I believe it was a Trade Addict. So yeah, whatever. Who knows? You listen to so many, it's hard to remember. But, it's just one of those things that like, this guy, he's just seems like he's never getting that like play all year long, and it's just it's too bad. And especially it'd be nice to see him be like if he's able to do it with like a backup quarterback, and then if he can do it like Ayuk has, that's super promising for that team as a whole when they actually have a quarterback. So yeah, that's my bad, just bad news.
No, and I love the direction you went with it. Man, I love Debo coming out of South Carolina. And I do feel he's the most talented wide receiver on that team. But, if you're not on the field, it doesn't matter. And Ayuk has proven that he should be out there, and he's talented as well. And if they can ever get the quarterback, whether that's Jimmy Garoppolo or somebody else, Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle all on the field at the same time, that's tough to stop, man. Who do you cover? Who do you leave open? Very difficult. Plus the zone run scheme that they have, you got to stop the running back too, which is difficult. But I like that one, Bill. So I'm going to go with the ugly, and I'm going to apologize to anyone who asked me about Geo, and I said it's Dallas, man. Like, people run on Dallas. Like, people destroy Dallas in the ground game. Six total touches and 23 yards, and he fumbled on I think the first play of the game, and then for some reason the coach decided to bench him, and then it was a whole thing, and he got back in later. But it just comedy of errors. I've been a big Geo fan for a while, but at this point he's looking like he's at best part of a committee, and a guy who's maybe a better play when he's getting 7 to 12 touches as opposed to getting 15 to 20 touches a game. And I'm sorry, people. If you talk to me about Geo, I said play Geo this week. It's Dallas. Let's go. It's going to be a big game, and it didn't turn out that way. What about you, Bill? Who's your ugly?
My ugly is Cam Newton. It's 3 weeks in a row where this week was the most passing yards he's had, and that was 119. It's just awful. Like, you are so reliant on him, getting rushing touchdowns for you to really have even a good week from him as a quarterback. So as promising as he looked early in the season, it's just gone way downhill. And I don't know what the reason is. Maybe he's hurt. Maybe, it's his weapons, it's probably a combination of everything, but I don't know what I'd do with Cam. I'm trying to move him for anything right now because I'm not sure we're going to see him get the opportunity that he did this year, many other places other than being like a bridge quarterback for somebody.
So I want to play a little game with you, Bill. Can you guess how many games Cam Newton has had this season where he's passed for over 200 yards?
I cannot. So let me just so we're 13 weeks into the season for games.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to say 4.
He has done that 3 times.
Wow. How do you and it's not how many rushing touchdowns does he have?
Let me look that up real quick because I'm on his passing stats right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry about that.
But no problem, man. You chatted up while I look for this because there's something else interesting I want to say after that.
Say that again.
You chatted up while I'm looking up his
Oh
stats.
yeah,
There's something else I want to say after that too.
yeah. So I did hear Edelman's coming back potentially. So I mean, I guess that's a positive sign. Maybe there's a wide receiver that does know what he's doing. But I just think that team as a whole is just. I mean, they're winning enough, I guess. So that's okay. I mean, they're doing a pretty good job for the talent they have, but it just seems like I can't imagine they go into next season with Cam. Especially once they threw what's his name back in after the fact.
Um,
The second year player, I can't even remember his name already.
Stidham.
Stidham, yes, thank you. You know me and names, I can't remember any of them. So
I mean, you remember all the good players' names. So
let me pass it back to you, Jack.
So Cam has 11 rushing touchdowns on the season.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, can he keep that up over the years? And I mean, is that something you want your quarterback to be doing at the age of 30, 31, 32? It's just one of those things that sooner or later, and I mean, he's been awesome his whole career, and he is like a linebacker. I mean, he's a huge dude, but
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, Superman is going to run into his kryptonite at some point, and I think he's starting to run into it a bit now.
And he has only 5 passing touchdowns. So, I mean, think about that from your quarterback with 11 rushing touchdowns and 5 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, so that's just 1 touchdown a game, 1 point something a game, and that, I mean, that's bad, 1.25 ish.
Yeah.
And I mean, how can you go into that season? I mean, you are so reliant on your defense to keep it close, because scoring those amount of points is just not feasible to be a playoff team, with that sort of quarterbacking. So yeah, it's pretty ugly.
Yeah, and I mean 119 yards, and to be honest with you, this is the first game since week 11 that he's thrown triple digits in yards. So, like, week 11 was the end of November, and we're like closing in on Christmas. That's that's not good. That's not good. And this is a guy that a lot of people were happy, maybe they had their startups going already and they had taken him in the 15th round of their startup, or the 18th round. They were like, yeah, he's on the team. And even at that part of the draft, it really hasn't done much for you. I mean, the first 3 weeks he was kind of on fire, and then it was like, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him next year. I don't think anyone brings him in as a starter, but does someone try to bring him in as a backup? Does he even want that?
I mean, he's made so much money. At some point, I mean, who knows how much he loves the game, right? And that's all what it's going to boil down to, or how much, is his ego tempered enough to where he's able to just teach the young guy, or something like that. Like, those are going to be really important factors, because if I'm him and I've made so much money in the league, I'm not going to deal with that nonsense. I'll go about my life, unless I just so love football that I just want to stay in it. And maybe that's going to be a career I go to beyond, playing days.
So in 10 seasons in the league, Cam has made $122.5 million. So just playing football, never mind anything else that he has his hands in. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's not his thing. Maybe, he's either a starter or he retires and he does something else. That'll be interesting to see during the off season. But all right, man, we got through that, and now we get to do what we love to do and talk about what we saw on the timeline. So this looks like it's from Good Morning Football at GMFB. The non QB who has been the most unstoppable player in all of football this season is. So, Bill, I'm going to let you go first. Who has been unstoppable this season?
So I had it down to 2 in our notes. I kind of told you the 2 I was thinking about.
Yep.
So I was hoping you would go so that I would just pick the other one, but you might not have one of those 2 guys. So
I don't. So
okay, cool.
That's why I'm
so
letting
I'm
you
going to go with the one I think is the most dominant of those 2. I'm going to go with Davante Adams. Like he's literally just like, I mean, 2 touchdowns a week, if you look at his fantasy point scoring compared to any other wide receiver per game is just ludicrous. Like, I mean, he is so far above everybody else. And he is, I mean, I could have gone with the other guy that we just discussed earlier, I want to go with, as unstoppable, I think it's Davante. Like every single game, I don't think he's had one stinker.
I like that. The only thing that can hold Davante back from dominating any team at any time is injury, and if he's healthy, he is. I mean, probably a closest thing to an automatic start as there is in the league. So I love that one. The one I was thinking about was actually you're good from this week, Bill. Travis Kelce. I mean, the dude is just dominant. He is the clear number one at his position with really no argument. And nobody at any other position can really say that. There's always an argument for this guy or that guy. And listen, don't come at me with the what about Darren Waller and what about George Kittle? Great players in their own right. But Travis Kelce is in a tier of his own. And it's because he can consistently have 130-yard weeks and a touchdown. And, I think he may have had like one stinker this year. But, I mean, for the most part, in a league where the position isn't very good, he is, I mean, right now on pace to be the yardage leader in the league, not amongst tight ends, not in Kansas City, not in the AFC, in the entire league. So, I mean, my guy was Travis Kelce, but I mean, can't argue with Davante Adams. The other guy that we had on here as a possible talking point was Derrick Henry. Yep, you could put him
we have
in
all 3 positions covered.
There you go. And we're now going into quarterback. So
you're right.
But no, man, that's a great question because I mean, it's funny, and we can relate this to fantasy. If you have one of these guys on your team, you're like, yeah, like these guys are instant. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm probably on my best dynasty team right now. I have Davante and Travis Kelce, so it's like I experience both of those guys every week. But you also know when you are playing a team that has Derrick Henry on it, you close your eyes, you hope for the best. You're like, oh God, please don't put 50 on me this week. It's you definitely know when you're playing one of those guys because you look at the other team's roster and you go, oh man, this guy, and you're like, yeah, well maybe he won't be good this week. And you try rationalizing with yourself. Well, maybe they won't run him 25 times this week, or maybe they won't throw it to him this week. And at the end of the game, you're like, they did what they always do, and that guy drops a bunch of points on you. So that was a great thinking exercise because, there have been a few guys that are definitely in that conversation. But we're going to move on to the next one from Matt FF Dynasty American Football at Matt FF Dynasty. So who is the one main guy you will be targeting in your trades during the offseason? And why is it Denzel Mims? So we know Matt is obviously going to grab as much Denzel Mims as he can get his hands on. But Bill, who's that one guy you're targeting right now? Maybe if you're rebuilding a team and there's a trade deadline still going on, or there's no trade deadline going on. or a guy that you're kind of eyeing up for the off season or the non-point scoring season, as our main man Dynasty Outhouse would say?
Yeah, I was trying to think about like during the off season, like who am I going to be going after a lot, just because I feel like maybe their value isn't where it will be, once the season starts next year. And the first one that popped into my mind was Irv Smith. I think like he is a pretty inexpensive acquisition at the moment, so like I don't think you have to give up a ton for him. People start getting a little down on tight ends after a couple of years of not really like showing well. And you got to remember the guy's still 22 years old. So I mean, he's so young compared to most tight ends that come onto the league. I mean, there's rookies that are 24 years old, tight ends. So I mean, he's still 2 years. He'll have 4 years in, and there'll be rookies coming out the same age as him. So we kind of talked about this I think it was last week. I don't know. It was on a show I was on. Me and my brain. Anyway, where it's just like, I was actually on Junkies, and he's just so he kind of has that, he's way ahead of the game because like Ebron was kind of, and you just have so many years to progress, and still he's so young, and just throw him on the bench, hope for the best, and I can't imagine you have to pay more than like a late second for him now.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't think his price is going to be high, and he actually is a guy that I always try to get as a slightly more expensive throw-in. He's not quite at throw-in level, but a lot of guys, if you're like, hey, we're a little bit off, can you throw in Irv Smith? Usually don't fight back too much on that. So I love that one. I'm actually going to go with Denzel Mims' current teammate in Superflex leagues, Sam Darnold. We know he's not going to be the guy next year for the Jets. That's a given. It's either going to be Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence, depending on what the records play out to be. But Sam Darnold is going somewhere. He's not going to be in Jersey. They actually play in New Jersey, but he's not going to be a New York Jet. So where is he going to go? I don't know. Maybe he gets traded to the Colts. Maybe he gets traded to San Francisco. Maybe, there are a couple teams around the league that are going to need a guy. And I think that any team that's going to trade for him is going to at least let him battle for a starting spot. Maybe they don't give it to him outright. But one rumor I actually heard was that John Elway will be looking to bring in a higher powered, at least backup in Denver. And if that's Sam Darnold, that could be a QB race there to see who the better guy is. And if Sam Darnold can win that race, man, I mean, you got Sam Darnold all of a sudden throwing to Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant, Tim Patrick, and they still have Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay. I mean, all of a sudden he gets a massive upgrade all over the place on that team. Better defense, better offensive line, and who knows? I mean, the sky's the limit, and I feel like even in a super flex league, I mean, by the time the draft comes around, what are we spending? A late second, maybe? I mean, there might be some places where you can get him for a third because the current Sam Darnold owner is watching him put up 3-point games, 6-point games, and they feel like if they can get anything to get out of it, they'll be happy. So that's my guy. Sam Darnold's my guy. Jerry's got a good one here. Brian Edwards, maybe. You ain't getting them for a discount from me. I know that, and I have them in a lot of places. So, but no, Jerry, I like that one. I think that's a guy who injuries have kind of sapped him, and it looks like Derek Carr has had issues getting on the same page with his rookies. I mean, him and Ruggs have hooked up on a couple of big plays, but it hasn't been anything consistent. So that's a good one. And Jerry also said maybe the Bears put a call to the Jets to try to make a trade for Darnold, which I mean wouldn't be a bad place for him because what's the competition there? Mitch will be out. I don't know if Nick Foles' contract is one of those that they can easily opt out of and cut him. So, but even if Nick Foles is the competition, I mean, does that really put a lot of fear in your heart? I mean, I feel like Sam Darnold is still the best quarterback in that room if he gets traded there. So, yeah, I like all those ideas. So,
I just looked up Foles' contract, and he's it's kind of a decent sized cap hit if they cut him before 2022.
okay,
I mean, it's not ridiculous, but I think he would end up just staying on the team,
yeah,
at least for next year. But yeah, just having a veteran and then a young guy, if they end up deciding to move on from Trubisky, that's not a bad potential, move if they really are higher on him. But yeah, and moving on to the original tweet with the Mims, I think Mims is a fantastic one, honestly. Like playing with a garbage coach in a garbage system with a quarterback who seems a little lost at the moment just in that system. And, I think that that's a really good person that you can acquire, but I think he's really there's so many people saying Mims right now that I don't think you're going to be able to get him for any sort of discount that you probably should. And everybody's just aware that he's shown enough this year that, you're still going to have to probably pay like an early second for him at a minimum, I would imagine. And that's where he was kind of getting drafted anyway. So it's not like you're getting this discount on him after his rookie season.
I do like Mims, and if I can get him for a discount, I will try to get him. I agree with you, Bill. I don't think that discount is really out there in most situations. But I will say I did get myself a share of Mims in a 14-team Superflex. I traded Adam Thielen for a late first and Denzel Mims. So, it's a team. I didn't make the playoffs. Traded them to a playoff team. I think that team may have actually got kicked out of the playoffs because Adam Thielen did not have a great week last week. But hey, I got my first and I got my Denzel Mims. So yeah, and you got to look towards the future. I mean, he's going to be catching passes from Lawrence or Fields. That quarterback is going to entice a talented or hopefully talented head coach over there. You're not going to be kind of picking from the Adam Gases and the Matt Nagy's of the world. You're probably getting, a at least supposed upgrade at the head coaching position, and then
how can it not be?
You would think from Adam Gase anything is better than Adam Gase. But yeah, I mean, if he's getting passes thrown to him by Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields all of a sudden, and who else is there? I mean, I was talking about this yesterday. I was on the Dynasty Hot Sauce podcast with Larry Monkey, and we're talking about like we elevate in the fantasy community the Jamison Crowders and the Brashad Perrimans of the world because they're on the Jets. If they were the second or third player for the Cowboys or even the Lions behind like Galladay and Marvin Jones, like we wouldn't even talk about these guys. But because they're on the Jets and they're the only game in town, we elevate them. But Mims is going to be there, and I can't believe with the plethora of picks the New York Jets have, they're not bringing at least one other receiving option in there, probably multiple receiving options in there, plus free agency. So, I mean, there's also going to be some real deal players that maybe can also take some pressure off of Mims and help him excel. So, yeah, I mean, if you can get them for a discount, go get yourself some Mims, but you're probably paying whatever the person paid last year at the minimum to get him, which is a high second.
And I don't mind paying that. You know, that's okay. Like I'm totally fine with that. But just, I mean, I haven't really dug into the rookies much. I try to kind of keep in a bubble in regards to that until off season. So
Right.
like I don't know who's available at that point, but I'd much prefer a wide receiver that's shown something his rookie year over somebody that I haven't seen play in the league yet. So yeah, I mean, I'm still okay paying. And when we say discount, I mean, you don't have to buy every player at a discount. If it's somebody that you see, you know, trending upwards, like it's okay paying even slightly over market just to get him. Because if you think next year he's going to be worth 2 firsts or something, then like it really doesn't matter what you pay. Like, you know, if you pay a late first instead of an early second, I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
And this, you know, and we play the game, and it's called Dynasty, but this is also, you know, we always look at it, you know, and I even made mention of the trade I made, you know, to team, and I missed the playoffs by a game, and you know, I traded Thielen and I got a first and I got Mims, but these are also deals that contenders can make if you're trading, you know, an older guy. Even let's even use Thielen. If you're on a contender, you know, you just say, oh man, you know, Thielen. You know, let's see if anyone out there wants anything for him. Maybe another contender wants him, and you get, you know, Mims, and you get a little younger at the wide receiver or at the running back position. Maybe it's a cross position trade, and it's like, hey, you know, there's a little bit of a gap. Can you throw Mims in there? Now, not only have you, you know, maybe bolstered another position, but now you've given yourself a young chip that's going to kind of grow and keep your dynasty going. So Denzel Mims is kind of a guy I think you can get no matter what position you are in your league right now, and you're going to be happy with the results possibly as soon as next year. So that was a good one, Matt. Denzel Mims, you know, I think Bill and I are giving our seal of approval. Go get him if you can get him. All right, so this next one is from our main man, Dynasty Outhouse, at Dynasty Outhouse. And this is a real interesting question. This is one of the big reasons why I think potential points is insanely flawed as a means for rookie draft order. Why should having Ty Johnson and Dan Arnold on your bench cause you draft
I think he
capital?
meant cost you draft
Cost
capital.
you, yeah.
Yeah.
Players you would never dream to actually start shouldn't affect your draft spot. So, Bill, I want you to start out because you use. I know we're in Superflex Army 2 together, and you use potential points. So I want to, get into the mind of the commissioner. Why do you use potential points?
So I'm looking at this, as a commissioner. And so my thought process is I want to have to manage the least amount possible. So if I can prevent people from quote unquote tanking and they start a crap lineup, well, because they want to lose the game, I mean, then you're ruining the integrity of the league, right? Because teams that played that guy earlier in the season didn't get that, potential free win that somebody that plays them later in the year. So, and I think win-loss is just the worst way as for a commissioner because they have to monitor all of that. Whereas potential points, because you're essentially taking the best point total, basically a best ball lineup for the week, it's gonna you don't have to worry about people quote unquote tanking their starting lineup. And so that's kind of where I lean. I think that there's always there's always going to be something that can be abused. And I would much rather have it to where maybe a team kind of loses based on potential points, a few draft spots, because they're deeper than another team. Because you got to think, like, when a team destroys like their whole lineup or roster to move up a few spots and to get pick 102 instead of 104, they're doing way more damage to their team than just a player, than the team who didn't just destroy their whole roster. And so that's kind of my argument as to why I think potential points is the best setup. Nothing is infallible. There's going to be a problem with, you're always going to run into circumstances where it's not ideal. But at least from my experience, that is potential points is the best option of the options, in my opinion.
All right, so I'm gonna give my 2 cents on potential points, and I want to preface it by saying this. Listen, everybody, play in the leagues that you have fun in. Like, just because I say yes or no to something doesn't mean that you can't have an opposite opinion on it. Because guess what, man? Some people love PPR, some people hate tight end premium, some people love two tight end leagues. I mean, that's the great thing about fantasy. It's like ice cream. There's a bunch of different flavors, and they all taste good. So, eat your favorite flavor and go with it. I am not a potential points fan just because, and I'm sure Outhouse would agree with me on this because I've heard him say it before. That's potential point seems like you were trying to regulate bad owners in your league instead of just kicking them out and getting good owners in your league. And I'm not saying that as a, derogatory thing towards anyone, because that's not, but it's just kind of the psychology behind it, not so much the, potential points or not potential points. But it's one of those things where it's like, for example, if I decide this week I want to start Zeke Elliott over Wayne Gallman, week one, that would, you would have been like, you're tanking, dude. You're starting Wayne Gallman. Like, Zeke is here and blah, blah. But, if I see a matchup that I think is better for a guy, even if it's for a stud, I may try to put that guy in. And it's almost like you are telling me that the lineup I selected was incorrect, so you're going to give me the correct lineup. And look, that's just my opinion on it. I play in a league with you in Superflex Army 2 that has potential points. And honestly, I say this all the time. Rules are rules. Obviously, don't play with rules that you hate. But I'm definitely more about, like, I play with people that I like. I love Superflex Army 2. You're in it. We got John Bauer in it. Rocky from the Junkies is in it. Dave from the UK is in it. I mean, there's so many cool guys in that league that honestly you could make it a 2 tight end league and I would probably play, even though I hate 2 tight end leagues. But like the group of guys in there is so cool that I'm not going to let a little thing like potential points turn me off. You know what I mean? But it's definitely something if a random Twitter league was going to start and someone said, hey man, like, I'm in this league, I'm starting this league. Would you like to join? Like, here are the rules. And I don't know anyone in it. And I saw potential points. I would probably be like, man, like, no, thanks. I appreciate you reaching out, but, I don't want to play. You know what I mean? And that's just my opinion on it. But I get it because, Bill commissions a lot more leagues than I do. I only commission one league. And I actually, only reason why I'm doing that is because I did it for a friend. So, and Bill commissions what, a handful of leagues, right? 5, 6 leagues, more than that.
Yeah, we're at 7 or 8.
7 or 8. So, obviously, and listen, by the way, commissioners should be doing that. Commissioners, as long as the league is still fun, should be trying to make the job as easy on themselves as humanly possible, because it is a very difficult and thankless job. So I understand trying to make the job as easy as possible.
Well, and just to kind of like maybe say one point, and I agree, like there's no right answer for this, really. I mean, it's just, as a commissioner, I'm doing what's going to be the easiest for me, and that's, to me, is the easiest. I don't have to worry about any of the nonsense. And a lot of the leagues that I am commissioner of are randoms, right? It's now that I, started getting to podcasting and I'm able to select people, for my leagues a little easier than I did when I started out in Dynasty. like I feel like it's probably not as big of an issue now because I know I have good owners in the league. But
Yeah.
in those other leagues where it's just people that we all just found each other on a message board or on Twitter, and all of a sudden we're in a league, like you don't know anybody, you don't know their background, you don't know any of that kind of stuff. And yes, of course, like if like with Russ and Trade Addicts, like he gets to pick everybody. He's like he knows everybody that's in all of those leagues essentially. So I mean, I know it's random, but he gets to select who's in the random, and so so that kind of works in his advantage, or to his advantage in that. But like your point about the you're maybe taking like you feel like you're being discredited for your lineup decision if something happens. Well, my thought process in that is like, okay, yeah, but that shows that you have depth on your team, and that means that your team's good because you have depth, and that unfortunately is going to affect you negatively when it comes to potential points. Yes, but that could be an argument that your team is stronger than another team who doesn't score as many potential points because they don't have the same depth that you do. And so that's just another way to potentially it's just a different way of looking at it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying like one of us is right or wrong. It's just what we kind of prefer. And I'm totally looking at this as a commissioner.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be all for just doing, record or whatever, but I've just, in those random leagues, I've seen so many people abuse it, and it's unfortunate. And the problem is you have to end up doing something about it. And so that's what I'm trying to avoid. I don't want to have to do that. And so like I've seen it, we've had it where, and it just destroys the league because everybody's pissed, and, because this guy's completely tanking and setting like ridiculous lineups, and, and that was probably a bylaw issue, early on. And, it's live and learn. And it's just one of these things that's like, I don't have to worry about it. This is totally it. And, but yeah, I understand the argument both ways, exactly like what you said. It's just, that it's a fun conversation. It comes up every year, and you're never going to get everybody to agree on it. And that's okay. Like, I'm not totally passionate about it if I am a person playing in a league. Like, that's not, like you said, it's not going to necessarily determine whether I jump in a league or not. But, but it's something for the commissioner that they don't have to worry about. And I'm all for that.
Yeah. And I'll speak for you for a quick second. I'm blessed, and I'm sure you feel the same way, Bill, that like I have a very small platform, but I have a big enough platform to where like people are asking me to play in their league. So I can be really, I can really pick and choose what I want to, which leagues I want to be in, which rules I want as part of these leagues. And, but I'm definitely the person where I'm like, the rules don't really matter. Like, if I'm in a league with a bunch of cool people, like, those are the leagues that, I enjoy the most because, you have that level of trash talk, and you have that level of, joking around, and, the chats, the league chats are usually lit. People are usually going back and forth. And, I know in Superflex Army too, every week of the playoffs, I've been like, hey man, I got a Kenyon Drake if anybody wants it. And nobody takes me up on Kenyon Drake. He's been doing well, guys.
Yeah, I'd say this week because Edmonds is hurt, so he's getting all the touches.
Guess what? Saturday, it comes every Saturday. Hey guys, there's a Kenyon Drake hanging out if you want him. But that's the cool thing. I mean, right before we came on today, in that chat, one of the guys in there was like, hey man, send out a bunch of offers, check your inbox, tell me what you like. And right before we came on the show, I traded Drew Lock for Daniel Jones, and I'm happy with it. I'm pretty sure the guy who made the trade with me is in the playoffs right now, and he doesn't want Daniel Jones on his team because Daniel Jones is hurt, and Drew Lock is a healthy body right now. So I traded a healthy body for a team that did not do very well. Even though I got on little bit of a win streak, unbeknownst to me, but a little bit of a win streak at the end of the season. But you know, I feel like I upgraded at a quarterback position, but
I,
hey, I'm not in it, so him not playing doesn't bother me one bit. So, but yeah, those are the kind of leagues I like, man. People are chatting, people are, they're active leagues. Like Superflex Army is always active. There's always people trying to shoot trades in and out. People are always, on the waiver wire. Bill last week is picking up Darius Geis in a real slick move. And those are the kind of leagues I like. So, hey, if there's a little thing like potential points, and we get into these groups. It's like potential points, no potential points, trade deadline, no trade line. There's these epic brawls break out between the two sides, and it's just kind of like, hey, you know what? Like, some people are gonna like chocolate ice cream, some people are gonna like vanilla, and
no right or wrong.
it's all ice cream. It all tastes good. Just enjoy what you enjoy. So, all right, man, we're gonna move on here to Boyd Killingworth at Dynasty Boyd. Who is your tight end one in Dynasty? The choices are Travis Kelce or George Kittle. Bill, I'll let you go first.
So I'm going George Kittle. I mean, I know that Kelsey's going crazy this year, and I mean, I just think with Kittle, I think he's like 4 or 5 years younger. If you take away I'm just using Superflex Army scoring right now, but if you look at points per game for Kelsey, he's at like 24, and Kittle is at like 19.9 or something like that. But if you take away the game he got injured in where he didn't play the full game, he was averaging 22 points a game. Kittle was. So he is only 2 points behind Kelce, what Kelsey's doing this year. So that is my answer. I think I'm just buying the years. And I mean, I do, he's doing this with Garoppolo and a backup quarterback. I would expect that he won't be doing worse with a better quarterback. So yeah, I'm going Kittle.
So, I mean, listen, we can all give a wrong answer every once in a while.
And here we're gonna hear it now.
We are not, because I am going to pick the tight end one, the man who has been the tight end one since all of us were just glimmers in our dad's eyes, as they say. Travis Kelce. I mean, you are correct. There's one part of that was correct.
All of it.
Travis Kelce is 4 years younger than or George Kittle's 4 years younger than Travis Kelce. But that's about it. That's where you get the advantage. Yes, you would think that with a better quarterback, George Kittle will perform better. But
I'm not even saying that per se. I'm just saying, like, it won't be worse, I don't think.
I'm curious to see if, and trust me, the way both guys have been this season, it's a big if. But if Debo and Brandon Ayuk are healthy, does that cut into what George Kittle does? I understand that George Kittle is the number one receiving option on that team. I don't think that is debatable. But, Travis Kelce he just does it every year, and I think he's going to keep doing it until I have to see the drop off before I believe that someone else is the tight end one. And so in Dynasty, let's face it, I'm looking, like 2 to 3 years max, and I think Travis Kelce is going to be the tight end one for most of those next 2 to 3 years.
Okay, so just like if you were in a startup, let's say, and it's your typical 1.5 tight end. Like, where do you think you're taking Kelce?
Superflex, I'm assuming.
Sure.
He's probably like a high second.
Okay, and where's Kittle for you?
He's probably like a mid second. I mean, I don't think the gap between them is. I mean, maybe 5 picks max is the gap between the two guys, in my opinion.
Yeah, so it's super close. So like for that being the case, like I'm totally willing to buy 4 years. And that's pretty much it. I get that I'm giving up a few points a game. And it's just I get it though. I mean, how do you turn down, what he's doing this year? It's just insane at that position. But like I said, Kelsey wasn't that far behind him. I'm sorry, Kittle wasn't that far behind him before he got hurt. So, yeah, I mean, that's a fun one. I mean, this has been an argument the last few years. So it's just like, I don't think we're going to see anybody overtake those two guys, anytime soon. Like, I can't, who's the most likely player to overtake either of those guys?
Kittle or Kelsey.
Mm.
I mean, most likely player is probably Waller.
Yeah, I mean, he's really the only answer, I think, because there's a huge drop after him.
Now I will say, I think 4 years from now, I think we're going to see a lot of guys come together, kind of like T.J. Hawkinson, Noah Fant. I think we're going to see those guys ascend, but I still think those guys need 3 or 4 years before we start talking, because then obviously Travis Kelce in 4 years is going to be 35, 36.
That'll be Jason Witten.
Yeah. I mean, then Kittle will probably ascend because it's 4 years. He's 31. He's kind of where Kelce is now.
Yeah. Prime.
And then, I think you're going to see the Noah Fant, the TJ Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts, if he's all he's supposed to be cracked up to be, will, be in the league for 4 years. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing Travis Kelce, who is historic and has been historic for a while. And I mean, we're going to be talking about him, like a Tony Gonzalez, like a Gronk when Gronk was really in his prime and dominant. Even Jimmy Graham when he was in his prime and dominating,
Those 3 years.
Hey, listen, they were an amazing 3 years.
They were. And just so everybody knows, the results in the poll was Kelce 63.5% to 36.5% for Kittle. So I am in the minority. Josh is, I'm a hipster. Josh is mainstream. There you have it.
Listen, I'm a boomer and I'm fine with it. No, and actually, you talked about the poll results, and I was actually surprised by that, and not because I don't think. Obviously, I picked Travis Kelce, so I think he's good, but we get so wrapped up sometimes in dynasty. Who's the younger guy? Like we'll talk about two guys that we think are close in talent, and we'll go, well, just give me the younger guy. So I'm actually really surprised. And maybe it's because, Kittle this season has dealt with all of the injuries, and it's kind of that recency bias. But
I mean, he gets banged up. I mean, it's not just this year. He got banged up last year too. And so there is that, there's in the back of your mind probably, that if you haven't seen him play a full year in a few years. So, I mean, I get that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it'll be fun. That'll be fun to watch next year and for the next couple of years to see.
But I'll take both of them seriously. Like, give me both of those guys.
and you know what? I mean, it's funny, and obviously, you always have to kind of look at what you're doing, especially in a startup, and kind of map out how your team is going to look if you take a certain guy here as opposed to another guy. But man, I, like so many others, usually like to trade out of the first round or pick up picks. I mean, my theory has always been, give me the most picks in the top 50. I don't care about having a first round pick or but if I can get a couple of seconds and a couple of thirds and a couple of fourths, I feel like those are your team ends up looking a lot better than maybe taking the one big time stud in the first round. But man, if you wanted to be bold and get Kittle and Kelce on the same team, and I actually did that in in a league that drafted 3 years ago, I had Kittle and Kelsey on the same team, and I ended up trading Kittle away in a package that got me Dalvin Cook. But like I had those two guys for the first 2 years on that team. Like it was really nice just watching those guys go off every week because everyone else in the league was at a severe disadvantage because those were the two guys, and then Darren Waller popped off last year, and that was nice for everyone. But yeah, at a position where there's really three guys. I mean, we thought Mark Andrews was going to make his ascent into that territory, and that hasn't happened. And Zach Ertz, we thought he's always top three, top four. He's fallen off, and none of the young guys have really ascended into that territory yet. So, you would have a very big advantage if you somehow got Kittle and Kelsey on your team. So that's just something to think about, something to have fun with in a startup.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I'm not 100% sold on that, just because you typically only have to start one tight end.
Mm-hmm.
So your second tight end is essentially a flex that you could probably replace with like a wide receiver or something. So you're really banking on those two guys doing what they've been doing. And if you believe that, which obviously Josh and I do, I mean, you can do that, but there is a lot of risk because that position does get hurt more. So, I mean, I guess that's a good and bad. You always have that replacement for the tight end position, but it's you're getting a little bit more aggressive when you do something like that because you really have to replace those other positions. But wide receiver is so much more replaceable than tight end. So, yeah, it's a fun thing to try, but you're going to look at your team afterwards and go, oh man, like I'm rough at insert position here, and
but even running back is like that. I mean, we're talking about guys, Wayne Gallman might win you your league this year, because he's on your team. We've trotted out Gio Bernard at points. We've trotted out DeAndre Washington at points. I mean, it's not as sexy as wide receiver, but there are definitely guys that can fill in. James Robinson in most startups wasn't even drafted, and he's come in. So we have those guys. But nah, man, that's just a good discussion because I'm sure in a lot of leagues there's a guy like me who's saying, you can give me the older Travis Kelce, and I'll just continue to have the guy who's I think been the tight end one for 5 straight years now. I'll continue, and there are people like Bill who are like, yeah, you know what, Travis or George Kittle's not that far behind, and he's 4 years younger. And probably in most leagues it's probably split like we are 50-50. Half the league is probably like, yeah, if I get a chance to take Travis Kelce, he's my guy, and the other half of the league is probably like, oh, if I get George Kittle, that's my guy. So it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good talk.
And the poll, right now is 65-35 or whatever, but like I think once you get into startups and stuff, it's gonna err towards Kittle because of his age. I think that's a big enough difference for people because people go, people right now see what Kelsey's doing, and it's like really. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying like when you get to that point where you got to draft somebody, most of the time people are gonna go, man, he's 4 years younger, and I think that we will see most people do that. But the more aggressive play is taking Kelsey for sure.
Right. Agreed. So we got one more on the show sheet, so we're going to wrap it up. And this is from Titties Are Fun at 2 Titties Are Fun. Okay. Yes.
We're in a league together.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah. You guys can have fun. Who is the most
girlfriend?
Who is the most random player that will win someone a playoff matchup this week? So Bill, I'll let you go first. Who is that random guy that's going to win you the playoffs this week?
Random guy to win playoffs. I really did not think of this before you just read that.
All right, so you want me to go first while you think?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I am going to go with, my name is Jeff. Jeff Wilson 49ers. He's going to be the guy this week. It looks like Raheem Mostert's not going to play. Dallas sucks at the run game. Yes, I know I just said this about Gio, but I mean, we've seen Jeff Wilson have a 3-touchdown game this season. Listen, everyone who runs for the 49ers is just good because of the zone block system. Like, that's what it is. Like, I'm not saying that Jeff Wilson is the most talented running back in the league or anything, but he's a guy who plays in a good system that we've seen go off already once this season when he's had the opportunity. Prime matchup against the Dallas defense. I think there's going to be a lot of people.
We've heard that before, haven't we?
I know Gio, but I think if we're going to rate Gio and Jeff Wilson, I think we could both agree we would rather have Jeff Wilson. Things I didn't think I would say in 2020. Add that to the list to the millions of other things I didn't think I was going to say this year. But yeah, so I think Jeff Wilson is going to be that random guy. Somebody has him. In a league that I'm in, somebody's trying to sell Jeff Wilson for a first. Good luck with that. I wish everyone good luck, and I hope they get as much.
It's ambitious.
I hope people get as much for their assets as they can possibly. I mean, it won't be from me, but I hope somebody pays your price. But yeah, I think Jeff Wilson, is going to be a random guy, a guy that week one you definitely did not think about as you were heading towards a playoff push. But he's a guy now that could be a league winner. You got one now, Bill? I stalled.
I do.
As long as I could. All right.
Yep. I am going to go with Russell Gage from Atlanta. Even like removing last week when he did pretty incredibly. Earlier in the season, when he was out there, when he was kind of that second option, he did really well. And so I feel like he's one of those guys that can put up a huge week. That might be like if you're in a start 11 or something and you got to start, you have 4 flex or whatever. Like he could be a really good play, and you end up just getting, that he's random enough. I think if Jeff Wilson's random, then so is he.
I like Russell Gage. I mean, we saw it was like the first 2 or 3 weeks with him where he kind of blew up, and all of a sudden, a lot of people in redraft spent a lot of fab to go get him. And then he got hurt, and then there was a lot of back and forth. And, Julio ain't in this week. And, let's face it, it seems like Atlanta's always trying to throw their way out of a problem. So Russell Gage is going to be part of that, I think. And I think that's a good one. Again, a guy week 1 of the season, if I said, hey, who do you think is going to help, get you through to the playoffs, we would not have said Russell Gage and Jeff Wilson. So 2 randoms that I think could pay off big time. But we got this in the chat, and I want to go over it since we have a couple minutes before we're going to sign off. So this is from DeAndre Chris. Rate my team, 10-man league, not PPR. He's got Russ, Adams, AJ Brown, Dalvin Cook, Kenny Golladay. Dalvin Cook again. He's so nice, you got to say it twice.
It's a 2-copy league.
Copy league. He got both copies. Smart. James Robinson, Darren Waller, Justin Tucker, and on the bench he's got Robbie Anderson and TJ Hawkinson. So, I mean, I like this. I'm assuming this is a 1 QB league. So you got Wilson, you got Adams and AJ Brown. Assuming you're starting 2 wide receivers, you got Dalvin Cook and James Robinson as your starting running backs, Waller, and then Justin Tucker. He's the best kicker in the game. I don't know a ton about kickers, but I know he's the best one in the game. He's the best one right now. And then you got Robbie Anderson and TJ Hawkinson on the bench. I like that team. I mean, it's a 10-team league. Everyone is going to have a bunch of players, but I mean, I think you have a top 5 quarterback. You have the wide receiver 1 in the league right now. You have Dalvin Cook, who can be argued for at least this season as the running back 1. Darren Waller, who we talked about earlier as probably the tight end 3, TJ Hawkinson, who I think is ascending. I think he's going to be in that conversation.
He's
Maybe
tight
even
end 4 right now.
yeah. I was going to say, he's knocking on the door to be included in that group with the Kittle, Kelsey, Waller group, and then Robbie Anderson, who's been pretty nice most of the season. So love that team. I think it's a team that can contend for a long time. So on that note, Bill, I think we, as I like to say, I think we hit all the high notes. So thank you guys. Another episode in the books. We couldn't have done it without you guys. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Jerry O'Shea, our main man from Ireland, was killing it in the chat. A lot of good stuff. DeAndre Chris with that last question is good. Lindsay Kennedy always comes out and always says what's up and gives her 2 cents and her opinion. And there were a lot of other people that were in and out doing their thing, so we appreciate that as well. If you're watching us and you haven't subscribed and hit the bell, do that. Let you know when we go live, and I like those little reminders. I do it for a lot of my favorite podcasters that I have one set up for like the open bar. Like sometimes I'm running around on a Tuesday and I just forget, and I get that little bell notification. I'm like, oh yeah, awesome. Like I definitely would have forgotten because I was super busy today, and I put them on. And it also lets you know when anyone on DAP Network goes live. So if there's anything else that's happening, you're going to get that alert too. If you're listening to us on podcast, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you guys too. Like, listen, hour and 6 minutes. Listen, I mean, I don't know about you, Bill, in Detroit, but I know up here we're getting a bunch of snow right now. Like, actually, while I was shoveling, it turned into hail, and I had to go inside the house because I got hit in the eye with a piece of hail, and that hurt. It was not pleasant, as they say. So, but you could be doing anything. You could be shoveling if you're, in the same general area that I am. You could be, working out, running, hanging out with your family, but you deciding to listen to us, and we got to say we appreciate that. And if you are doing it, make sure you're subscribed. Tell all your friends to subscribe. Don't worry, if you're the first one in your league, let us know. We'll give you the extra special information that we won't give to the rest of your league. Rate and review helps us. We look at it, but it also helps get our name out there to other people who are looking into this thing. So, Bill, on that note, man, I think we are